This is Susan Wilbanks with blendedinsight.com. I am a holistic and integrative healing arts practitioner, an intuitive, and an energy healer. In this podcast, I share tips, tools, and suggestions that have helped me along my path in hopes of inspiring and helping you along yours. Let's get started with today's podcast topic. Hello, bright soul. Thank you for joining me on another podcast. And thank you to everyone who continues to leave feedback and comments and share my work. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And let's get started with today's topic, which is generosity and gratitude. And this is inspired by a talk I recently listened to by Dr. Mario Martinez, who was sharing his work on the difference between generosity and gratitude. And the reason that it really spoke to me is this is a time when people are feeling the squeeze, whether it's financially, emotionally, could be even materially, where we're really being called to examine what in my life is draining me, what is driving me, what am I here for, what do I want to work on? And it can also be a very critical time. I have a lot of people in my circle who are feeling irritated, short-fused. You could be experiencing all these things. It's the energetic climate of the world and also planetary-wise. So what I really liked about this is those of us who are empathic, who are kind-hearted, who are essentially light workers, we're generous and giving people. And sometimes we second guess our intuition and we allow people into our experience who are takers. And I love the way Dr. Mario Martinez explains the difference between someone who receives and someone who takes. And it really resonated with me the way he described the difference. So when you receive something, you receive it in gratitude. And so you don't have an urgency or an expectation to immediately give back. People who have a hard time receiving typically feel as though if they receive something from someone, they owe them and they have to give it back instantly or quickly. And for years and years and years, I had that issue. And it's because when I was a child, I made a decision at a very young age. And I remember very distinctly when I made the decision that I didn't want anyone to give to me because I didn't want to owe them. And so somewhere along the lines got crossed, and I made this silly assumption that if someone gave me something, I owed them. And it isn't true. And so he said, with people who are very generous and giving, sometimes have to set limits with people who are takers. People that receive in gratitude, there's an energetic exchange and a completeness. You offer something and the other person receives it. They receive it gratefully and joyfully. And there's a pleasant upbringing and up level energetically for both parties. However, when you're a giver and you give to someone who just takes, it's like it goes into a bottomless pit, and they aren't receiving it in gratitude because they have maybe an entitlement, or maybe they're psychopathic, or whatever the case may be. So the reason this really resonated with me is because I'm a very generous person. I'm generous with my time. I'm generous with whatever I have, and I love to give. But when I give to someone, I don't have an expectation of anything in return. And Dr. Martinez was explaining that generosity is one where you are grateful and you're just generous and you like to give. And once you give, that was your gift. You gave it and that's it. So he talks about not giving with the intent of receiving something back. So generous people don't get into the cycle of sticky giving where you're giving with the intent of receiving. And he talks about how people that are not really generous, when they give, there's like an accounting tally. I did this, I did that, I did this. And so there really isn't the freeness that comes with just giving and being a generous person. And so he also shares that if you're a generous person and you align with people who take, and you know when people take because you feel it's almost like an interrupt. It doesn't feel good when you give to them because it's like they take it. They don't really appreciate it and they don't really receive it in gratitude. They just take it and then they're looking for the next thing that they can take. And I know you know exactly what I'm talking about. And there's an energy about being a stingy person as opposed to a generous person. And so what I have really noticed over the years is that I don't mesh well with stingy people. I was once in a relationship with a person who was very stingy. He had the money, but he just didn't want to spend it on anyone else. So he had a very cheap poverty mindset. So he would always buy things that were very cheap. And I don't mean inexpensive. I mean like cheap quality and also inexpensive. And for me, I'm very logical. So the way I see things is if you would just spend a little bit more and get something of quality, it would last you longer as opposed to you buying something very cheap. When you have the money, you just don't want to spend it. And then it breaks in 2 months and you have to replace it. In the end, you're spending way more money on the cheap thing because I'm logical. But it was an energy. So it's when we would go out, it was a cheapness of wanting to not tip very well or, just trying to, it's kind of a hoarding type of energy and it really clogs up your energetic flow. And with this particular person, I noticed the person was continually getting hurt, continually having bad luck, continually, part of it's mindset, but another part of it is the energetic imprint that he put on everything that he put out because he was so stingy and hoarding. And so I believe in making very wise decisions. So there's a difference between being frugal and stingy. It's one thing when you have it and you have plenty and you just don't want to share it. It's a whole other thing where you're just trying to stick to a budget and make wise financial decisions. I'm talking about someone who has it and hoards it. And it's a lack mentality. It's a poverty mindset. And I don't want any part of that in my life. So what I've noticed is when I am in relationship, whether friendship or family, it doesn't matter. When I'm in relationship with someone who is not a generous person, I have to set really clear boundaries. So I had a friend of mine who, after the pandemic, the world was opening, we were going out to eat and stuff. And I noticed, so we would trade on who's going to pay for the meal. And I noticed when it was his turn to pay for the meal, we would go and sit and eat and be there for hours. And of course, the waitresses and waiters have to wear masks. And we're sitting there not for, a quick 45-minute dinner. It'd be like a 3-hour dinner. And he would only tip 20% of the bill. And our bill wasn't expensive, like maybe $20, $25. He has the money. It's not an issue of him having the money or not. But it was almost like a disrespect of the service or just a nonchalant thing. Like, I'm only going to tip 20%, even though we sat there for 3 hours. And I was appalled by this. I thought, oh my gosh, this person needs to be tipped well. First of all, the restaurants there's barely anybody there because they can only do half staff. And even at half staff, they're not full and the person has to wear a mask and they're giving us good service. So why in the world wouldn't you tip them really, really well? So I thought, this is really weird. So then when we were trading, when I would tip well, and he would make weird comments about the way that I would tip. It would bother him that I would tip really well. And I thought, that is so strange. I'm like, gosh, he's so cheap. So one day I just asked him, I said, why are you so cheap? And he's like, I'm not cheap. I'm just not made of money. And I thought, I'm not made of money, but if I go out to eat, I want to tip well. Well, fast forward the next week, the guy was buying guns and spending thousands of dollars on guns that he does not need. I'm talking about like self-defense guns, just to have in the house. And, I'm not against guns. I'm prior military. I believe in having faith and tying up your horses. Everybody has their own view on that, but, no problem. So the guy was going hog wild buying all of these guns, spending thousands of dollars. And I'm thinking to myself, and you can't tip a waitress a $20 tip, but you're going to buy thousands of dollars on guns. And so I'm noticing this. And then I realized this is a test. The universe gives tests. I thought, this is a test. I've already called him out about being cheap. And I see his number one priority is himself because he's one of those people that just enjoys guns. He appreciates guns. He likes guns. He doesn't shoot them or do anything with them, but he just collects them for whatever reason. It's a hobby, I guess. But so I'm thinking, so you have the money and you have enough of it to blow on guns that you don't need and you're not going to use, but you don't want to spend it on someone else. It's that energy of stinginess. It's that energy of it's selfishness. And so I have really gotten very good at setting boundaries and limiting my exposure to those people. So one of the things that Dr. Martinez just asked, if you have takers in your life, do you need them? Do you have to be around them? And if you do, then just set boundaries. So with this particular person, I just got very turned off and agitated by the way he was behaving, conducting himself. And because I'm so generous, I don't want takers in my life. And I noticed more and more I was paying when we were going out to eat because I was embarrassed at how cheap he was when he tipped. And I just decided this is a person that I just don't want to spend time with anymore. So I kind of just let it flatten out and fade. Don't have anything against the person, but I just noticed that energetic imprint. And guess what? This is another person who continually has accidents and bad luck and all these things going on. And I just see a pattern here. And things happen to all of us. Our souls have to evolve. So I'm not saying that you cause it, but what I'm saying is you certainly don't help it. There has to be a balanced give and receive. So if I'm putting the energy out, you have to inhale and exhale, inhale and exhale. So this is a person who's just stuck and hoarding and only spending on yourself. So the generosity needs to apply to yourself too. But chances are, if you're listening to this, you're already a generous person and you've probably aligned with people who are takers and you start to feel depleted. You maybe start feeling resentful, and you could be a person that's so used to giving that you have a hard time receiving. And I'm so glad that I healed that in myself. But I'll tell you, my most pleasant exchanges here recently, I shared in a previous podcast, I've been giving myself permission to just veg out on a Saturday. And I'm spending time with someone who is very generous. And we're both generous people. And because we're both generous, it's just very easy. There's an even exchange. It feels very light. It feels very high vibrational. And we have a great time. Neither of us are keeping tabs. It doesn't matter because when I give, he receives. And when he gives, I receive. And it's in gratitude. And because we're both generous and we're both just giving freely, it's just easy and light. And that's the way it should be. And so I just wanted to offer that to maybe examine ways in which you may or may not need to adjust those in your life. Generosity and gratitude are causes of health. They grease the skids on your positive karma and they lift up your entire vibration. And when you align with people who express those same qualities, life is just great. And for today's healing, I want to activate your heart chakra. When our heart chakra is activated, we're in a very generous and giving mode. But I also want to activate your higher centers, your discretion points, so that you already know this, but so that you can get really clear on those that you need to set boundaries with. And maybe this is a time where you need to release some type of people out of your life, especially if they just take and drain. We don't have time for that right now. We don't have time for it at all, ever. But with the current state of affairs, this is a time to really get crystal clear and clean things up. We're all in it. And I'm at the point now, I cannot afford to have drainers in my everyday existence. I can't do it because my calling is higher, just like yours is. Things are really heavy right now. And so I have to keep myself as clear and grounded and light as possible so that I can work with my private clients and give them the very best of all I have to offer so that I can take care of my family, show up, connect with my community, do my work, and continue to thrive during this time. And I want that for you. So let's go ahead and get into the healing, and you can uncross your arms and legs and just focus on your breathing and get ready to receive the healing energy. cleaning your solar plexus as well to help you release any of that stored emotion from takers in the past. Working on your will center to help you set those healthy boundaries for yourself. I am grounding you with beautiful healing energy and running shields. Okay, and so it is. We can come back into our bodies. And so it is. So as I was closing that healing energy loop, it came to me that I have to clarify something that I stated previously in this podcast. As you all know, I don't edit, I just share. Perhaps one day I will have the time to go back and edit and clean things up, or maybe hire an assistant sometime down the line, but that's not the reality right now. So I wanted to share this. So when I was talking about the friend of mine who is stingy, or the two instances of people who have recently come to my awareness about having the energy of stinginess and how they have corresponding terrible events or bad luck, what I wanted to share about that is that we all have, our soul has a path. And so what I've learned through pranic healing and just through my studies is that as you create more good and you clean up your lack and poverty mindset and all of the lower vibrations, things happen to you, but the impact doesn't seem to be as strong. In other words, you recover quicker. So the way that I understand the law of karma, it's not bad or good. There's good karma and bad karma. Really, is it good or bad? No, it just is, meaning that what you send out comes back to you. And so let's just say that you've just had a cycle of really terrible luck, but you become very generous and grateful and you look for the lesson. You know, another thing that I've shared in previous podcasts is about the luck factor. There's a book called The Luck Factor where it talks about how when you just genuinely look for the blessings and ways to be grateful and you seek out the good, you tend to boomerang like energies to yourself. So everything is an energetic potential and everything is energy. So if I am constantly feeling like I don't have enough, or I don't want to give, or I'm in this thing all by myself and it's about me and I'm selfish, then I am going to amplify those types of energies and pull them into my experience and into my aura. On the other hand, if I work to clean out those energies and realize that I'm the soul, I'm not the body. So whatever I do in this lifetime, it goes with my soul, not my body. When I, release this non-physical existence, I'm going to go back to what I came from. That's my train of thought. That's how I feel. That's what I believe. That's what resonates. You can choose to believe whatever resonates with you. I would just offer, have you ever noticed that when you're in a really blissed out, beautiful, giving, generous, and just feeling a very centered and connected state, things don't seem to bother you or harm you as much as they normally would? Have you noticed that in your life? Because I've noticed it in mine. So the more generous I am, the more I tend to align with people who want to be generous back. So that's really all I was sharing, is that when you have that energy of scarcity and stinginess and selfishness, you tend to align with things that are less generous with you because you're not generous. So we mirror our experiences. I hope that makes sense. I don't know, when I was closing that healing, it came to me very strong to clean that up. Maybe because someone was going to blast me on the internet and send me an email and argue with me. I don't know. It's neither here nor there. So I just want to send you all of my love, and I hope that you have the most amazing week. I hope that you have more ease in your life, more flow, more connection, and knowing that we are part of a whole. We are on the team of greater good. So we are here to bring more light onto the planet, and each of us need to do our part, and you are doing your part, which is why you showed up here, and I appreciate you. So that's all I have. Take care. Bye-bye.